development agreement with 5079684 Manitoba Ltd. Alan Hebert. Do I have a mover?
Councillor Pilcher.
Councillor,
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Belanger, I believe.
sure.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. CEO.
Again, unmuting problems, my apologies. I will turn this over to our planner, Ms. Waddell, as she is the one who has worked intensively on this development agreement and will fill you in on the details. Thank you.
Can everybody hear me? So,
Yeah.
Conditional use C1 2020 was approved by council on February 29th, allowing an industrial multi property. And one of the requirements of, as per section 5A of the zoning bylaw 9-2019, is that they enter into a development agreement with me. Mostly in respect of for us, it's the expense and the orderly use of the land. So a basic summary of this is that this will be registered as a caveat against the land and it will run with the land. And there's some development control items that are just general. Developer will advise the potential renters of the current bulk table regulations, which are attached to this zoning bylaw. For land use, the items that will not be permitted in this area are dairies and cream, farm implement manufacturing, sales and service, grain elevators, including sales and sewage treatment sites. Items that were changed from permitted to conditional, allow a little more coverage over that. Required that they build a fence along the south and east side property to provide a little bit of containment of anything that is contained in the yard. We have parking requirements in there as well for the front of the building, that it will be for customers and renters only, and it will not allow overnight parking. There will be no vehicles left there longer than the normal business that are allowed. The rest is just general stuff, and that's about the gist of it.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Discussions? We have worked on this for a little while now. I think we were all part of some opportunities on this, so we're well aware of what's going on, and I think it's an opportunity for sure. I'd like to see commercial growth in the area, and this will add to that. Anything else from council?
No.
Nope. It's just nice to see it get done.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Okay, I will call for the vote. Council, please cast your vote online.
Actually, I'll read the resolution before you cast your votes, if
Sorry,
you don't mind.
Mr. CEO, how dare me? Go ahead.
No problem. Now, therefore, be it resolved that number one, that the municipality enter pursuant to section 150 of the Planning Act into a development agreement with the registered company 5079684 Manitoba Limited and attached as Schedule 1 to this resolution. That the development agreement, number two, that the development agreement be not binding unless or until said company has taken all steps to required to satisfy and has satisfied at its sole expense and to the satisfaction of the municipality and approving authority anything arising or required as a result of any condition of the conditional use approval. That number three, that the proper officers of the municipality are hereby authorized and directed to empower to execute the development agreement in normal manner and to take place the seal of the municipality thereon. And number four, that a caveat be filed on behalf of the municipality in Winnipeg Land Titles Office against the titles to the land given in the notice of the development agreement.
Thank you. Okay. Council, I will have you now cast your vote unless there's any other discussion.
We need the voting turned on.
Yes, the voting is turned off. I see that. Thank you, Mr. Pelche. Is it still?
Oh, Mr. CAO?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, it's Councillor Clayton here. I unfortunately have lost the website. I will vote verbally on this one in favor, please.
Yeah,
Okay.
the voting's not open for me either.
It's not open for me either. I'm in favor.
I am in favor. I am in favor as well. Councillor Mamchuk, we're waiting for you. Councillor Mamchuk, we need your vote in favor or.
I've gone ahead and opened it for the next one.
Thank you. Councillor Mamchuk, are you there with your vote? Councillor Mamchuk, are you
He's
voting?
muted. Councillor Mamchuk, you need to unmute your microphone.
My apologies to council. I had it open and for whatever reason it got closed. So the voting is now open again if you wish to do so.
Okay, council, please go ahead, although you have stated your vote.
I'm unable to vote through the website at this time.
Okay, we have Councillor Clayton's vote by voice. He has voted in favor. We are just waiting for Councillor Mamchuk.
We are good to go. The vote is carried 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We will move on to 7.2 development agreement with North Grassy Properties Inc. for Grand Point Meadows Phase 3. Do I have a mover?
Councillor Belanger,
Councillor Mamchuk moves, second by Councillor Belanger. Thank you.
All right, I will read the resolution right away so that way you guys know what's going on, and then I will refer it back to planning person Tanya Waddell. So the resolution reads, be it resolved that the RM of Reachot enters into a development agreement with North Grassy Properties Inc. as attached Schedule 1 to this resolution. Ms. Waddell.
Here I am. So a summary was provided to council. I'll kind of do a summary of the summary. Grassy plans to change the development of the planned area from 26 single-family lots to 102 aging in place approved conditional use C6 2019. They've applied and received approval to subdivide the planned area into 2 lots for the condo development, and they intend 2 lots to what is referred to as builders in the DA. The summary of development agreement. The things that are not standard would be the construction of private services. The developer must install, this is pretty standard, but they roadways, drainage, street and civic signage, traffic control signs and streetlights. For a completion certificate, once services are installed and approved, we'll issue a certificate of completion, and it must be completed within 1 commencement. The developer must maintain the planned area and present completion of construction of the condo buildings, and after the issuance of the completion certificate, the condo corp will be responsible for all maintenance of the planned area. The developer will have to pay all the administrative costs of the agreement. They'll pay a cap of $6,200 per lot for the 2-lot subdivision first, and then upon the subdivision of the 2 lots into the condo units, they will pay $6,200 for the next 24 lots, and then they will pay the then current capital levy rate lots of 76 lots once the 2 lots are subdivided. You know, as I said, once they're subdivided into condo unit lots. They will have to get crossing permits for the access. Each lot owner will be responsible for their own driveways, which will be built by the builder. The condo unit owners will be responsible for conforming to the lot grading plan, and the developer is with that plan. There is a letter of credit of $50,000. That is basically, they will have to provide a continuance fence shown in Schedule E of the agreement. And they can do it in 2 phases, but it must be the same fence. The Desrosia Bay land will be sold to North Grassy, plus the costs, legal costs and such, administrative costs to complete the road closure. And they may develop the planned area in 2 separate phases, just to allow for the 2 separate purchasers of the lots. They must follow for each separate phase, and each phase must meet all the requirements of the DA approved plan of subdivision, development plan, secondary plan, and zoning bylaw. They may pay the capital fee phases if they do choose to develop in 2 phases, and before the fence can be constructed in 2 phases, but must conform to Schedule E so that it's contiguous all around. The rest of the agreement is basic standard development agreements that we have with most of our developers, and that is it.
Thank you very much.
I'm muted, sorry. I will open up the discussion to council. Does council have anything to add? I know that we have also seen this development agreement at the planning table before. Council?
I have 4 items if you would like to entertain me. Just a question about the telephone. They have to put them underground. This might be a dumb question because I don't know all the terminology, but are they putting in fiber optic lines, or is that all that goes in ground these days?
That's up to MTS.
Is it something we can make them do just to plan for the future, or is that not?
That's likely what they have in the ground there, but that's not something we can force on a private company.
No. Okay. In the landscape plan, I noticed the tree species. They've got American elm, and when I searched that up, it's a highly diseased tree. So the Dutch elm will kill them off right away. If we can get them to remove that off of the landscape plan and replace them with another species, I'd appreciate that. And again, item 8.f in the landscaping and pathways, it shows that they are on Schedule B, E, and F, but in that same sentence, it also says B, D, and F. If Ms. Vidal, if you could look into that, is that a typo or is that the way it's supposed to read? And
I'm guessing it's a typo, but I will check.
Okay. And last item, I was wondering if somebody could explain it to me a little bit more about the capital lot levies, about the reimbursement. There's a reimbursement for increased capital lot levies, and I believe it's in conjunction with the paving of Burnett Road. But if somebody could just dummy it down for me, I'd really appreciate it.
Okay, I will make that attempt. Hopefully I'll be successful. Upon the original signature of the original development agreement, and I'll put my camera on because I tend to talk with my hands at the same time. So, so as part of the original development agreement, there was a clause in there that the capital fees would remain the same at $6,200 or $6,600, whichever dollar amount that was, until the paving of Burnett Road would be done. And any increase in those capital fees would go towards a credit to pay for that improvement, for the road improvement. So once the road improvement is done and once it's paid for, and as the development goes further, then we could start charging the current dates at the subdivision stages. So right now we're kind of frozen at that 66, 62, but once the road is constructed and paved, and they really want to pave it this year because they want to start attracting, have a better attraction to the development. So it makes sense for them to move ahead on this right now.
Okay, thank you very much. That's very clear. That's all the questions that I had.
Camera off for me.
Thank you very much, Councillor Belanger and Mr. CEO. Is there any other questions or comments from council? I personally look forward to this opportunity. I think this is exactly what Richshot needs. I like the concept of 55 plus lifestyle, and I think it's a very much needed development. I will let Mr. CEO go ahead with the resolution.
I've already read the resolution, but I'll read it again. Be it resolved that the RMR Richshot enters into a development agreement with North Grassy Properties, Inc., attached as Schedule 1 to this resolution.
Thank you very much. I apologize for that. Okay, I will call for the question. Council, please cast your vote.
I just want to make sure that those things that I mentioned will be changed in the development agreement, or how does that
Yes.
go about that?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you, Councillor
Thank you.
Belanger. Basically, the number one concern was the telephone internet. I would only make the assumption that whatever they have right now for the current home builds is what is there now and would only get expanded from there.
Yeah,
as far
yeah.
as the landscape, definitely if American Elm is not the choice for council, I think we could do an easy substitution there. And Ms. Waddell will look into the BEF versus BDF. And just,
Perfect,
I
thank
believe
you.
those are just minor changes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Please cast your vote, council.
Councillor Clayton, are you still having issues with voting? No,
No,
you
I got
are
that.
not. I see that. Thank you. My patience is short. The vote is carried 5-0.
Thank you very much. 7.3 March 2020 building permit summary. Do I have a mover?
Councillor Clayton moves.
Thank you. Second.
Councillor Pelletier.
Thank you. Councillor Shane Pelletier seconded that.
All right. Council has before them a summary of the building permits as of March 2020. Number of permits issued in March totaling 15 permits, totaling a value of construction of $6.1 million for fees of just over $7,000. To date, that brings us to 35 permits with a value of 11.67 with total building fees of 24,500. In comparison to year to date of last year at March at this time, 35 permits versus 21. So even though we are in a epidemic, the building constructions are still going on quite well. You will see below the number of permits issued as well as to what they are related for.
Thank you. Does council have any questions or comments on the building permit summary?
It's a good month.
Absolutely.
Yeah, numbers look good, don't they?
Absolutely. Okay, I will call for the question. Please cast your vote.
The vote is carried 5-0.
Thank you very much. 7.4.1 Commissioner's contract renewal. Do I have a mover?
Councillor Mamchuk.
Thank you. Second.
Councillor Belanger.
Councillor Shane Pelletier got to it first. Go ahead, Mr. CEO.
On and Shane. All right. As we entered into a contract last year with the commissioners, that contract ended on March 31st of 2020. So this is basically a renewal of the contract. On page 13, basically the last page is the rates for the agreement. They do indicate 3-year rates. However, we are only going to be doing the first one on a year by year. My recommendation is a year by year contract. There is a typo at their end regarding the date error. It should say March 31st of 2021, not 2020. We still have a lot of work to do with the commissioners. However, I do believe that we are ahead of where we were last year by moving over to the commissioners. So my recommendation would be to renew for another year and then evaluate the process come March of 2021.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. I'll open up to council for discussion or thoughts on the extension or renewal.
No, I apologize. I didn't read every word in this renewal. Is there anything in there that says that they have to meet with us to report on what they've been doing?
Good question. Mr. CEO.
We've had them for a year and we have not met with them yet.
Okay, and I think the problem there is that we had a changeover of the guards as well with a fellow by Forrest and now a fellow by the name of Mike. So that might have been the issue. If I did not read the contract word for word as well, so that is on me to do for next time. But if we want them to come out and talk with us, I'm sure they would be open at any given time to do so. They were prepared to do so before. I can't see that being a big change right now.
Okay.
I'm wondering if we should have them come meet with us before we take this to a vote, or should we just move ahead?
I would recommend, my personal recommendation is to continue on with the contract for 1 year, but ensure that we do meet with them within the next, I would say 60 days would be appropriate, be it online or in person, practicing social distancing, of course.
I would like to see that happen. So yeah, I'm agreeing with keeping this going.
Sounds good.
No other discussion? Okay, when I will ask council to cast their vote, please.
The vote is carried 5-0. What I will do is instruct staff to make the proper arrangements to do so, to meet with the commissioners.
Thank you very much, Mr. CEO. 7.4.2, deferring tax sale proceedings. Do I have a mover?
Councillor Boulanger?
Thank you. Second.
Councillor Mamchuk.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. CEO.
Because of the pandemic going on, the tax sale process right now, we are in a stage where for lack of a better word, the certificate is registered on land titles that their property is subject for sale. I believe we are one of the early ones in the process on a yearly basis through tax service to go through the process. I believe we had not scheduled a tax sale date just yet, but it was to be in early to mid-September. A lot of the municipalities that do have earlier tax sales are what's called postponing them, and basically just putting a freeze on the process to be able to allow the outstanding recipients to deal with the pandemic. And what we would like to do is postpone it for 4 months and then restart, not necessarily restart the process, but start the process where we are currently leaving it off at this time. So there are still costs that have been incurred. Those will stay with those that have outstanding taxes. And I believe it's about 18 property rolls at this point. If my trusted assistant could confirm that, that would be great. But I believe last count I was at about 18. So, so on that point, we would look at postponing the tax sale into the new year. It still doesn't remove any obligation from them to pay their taxes. It's just a temporary freeze because of the situation that we are in. I hope I made myself clear enough for council.
Crystal?
Sorry, I was muted there. It makes sense to me. I think that's I think that's something we absolutely need to do. Does council have any discussion on that?
And sorry, I'm just going to confirm we're down to 15 properties.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, no discussion. I will ask council to please cast their vote online.
The vote is carried 5-0. I am trying to update the screen and it's not cooperating. So I will record it manually, the old-fashioned way, 5-0.
Thank you very much. We'll move on. Before we go to adjournment, we just had some information from the RCMP with 4-quarter year-end stats. Mr. CEO, can we please request, even if it's just a call-in discussion with the RCMP? I have been getting some messages and concerns with some scouting or scouting of residents during the day or late at night. Two people are doing drive-bys and scoping out the neighborhood. So I would like to just request that.
Yes, sir, your worship. I did have this as a note for council to ask that question. We do have a new staff sergeant at the St. Pierre detachment, so I will reach out to him and make the ask accordingly.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Okay, moving on to 10, adjournment. Do I have a mover?
Councillor Mamchuk.
Thank you. Second.
Councillor Clayton.
Thank you very much. I will call for the question. Please cast your vote.
The vote is carried 5-0. I cannot update. I'm sorry. I will hopefully have this clarified by the next meeting, but 5-0 carried. It is adjourned at
8:20 p.m. Thank you very much. Please stop recording.